begins at the Adventure Bay Museum, and they are preparing for the first visit of the royal kitties. Then they realize that Chase has arrived, and Ryder starts to say that he is transporting a cat statue. Rocky uses his vehicle to move the box so he can take it inside the museum. Mayor Humdinger arrives and says he is interested in the royal kitties, while the Paw Patrol are moving the box, and the mayor says that it is a gift from Barkingburg and that it will only be opened by the royal kitties. But we see that Humdinger tries to open it to steal the statue, and that ends up causing the alarm to go off. We go to the train, and the kitties are being cared for by Katie. Then the mayor appears dressed as a butler and hits the service cart to distract them so he can take the opportunity to take the kitties. Katie starts to say to let them pass and to return the kitties, but we see that Humdinger doesn't listen to her and separates the wagons. So Katie decides to contact the Paw Patrol and begins to tell them that a suspicious man stole the kitties and that they are in danger because he separated the cars. Then Ryder calls the Paw Patrol, and we see that they gather to listen to the mission. Ryder starts telling them that they must save the kitties and that they will help their friends before they have any accidents. So Chase will be named as the team leader, and they will have an ultimate police rescue mission. Then the Paw Patrol get into their new vehicles with police designs, and they are on their way to complete the mission. We go with Katie, and we see that the Paw Patrol managed to get there in time to help them. We start to see Skye use her vehicle to help her friends, and she manages to save them so they are not in danger. The Paw Patrol continue with the mission, and Humdinger realizes that they are being chased. The kitties push the buttons to move the tracks so they can get away. Chase begin to say that they must split into groups to stop all the wagons. We start to see that the Paw Patrol are working as a team, and they manage to save everyone. It gets dark, and Humdinger's kitties modify the locomotive to move through the ground. Humdinger names the royal kitties as new members, and we see that they have the Tracker and Everest costumes, while the Paw Patrol are investigating for clues and manage to discover that it was Humdinger. We go to the museum, and we see that the mayor activates the security system to protect the statue. But suddenly we see that Humdinger appears, and Chase the kitty manages to dodge the traps to get the royal kitties to approach, because they are the only ones who could open the box. We go back to the Paw Patrol, and they manage to discover that they had left clues. Chase realizes that they went to the museum because they want to get the statue of the kitty. The Paw Patrol go to Adventure Bay, but when they arrive they realize that it is too late and that the statue was stolen. Ryder starts to tell them that Humdinger is responsible and that he used the royal kitties to open the box. We go to Humdinger, and the kitties are tired because they've been working too hard. But suddenly we see that they are being surrounded by the Paw Patrol, and they use spikes to stop them. Then Humdinger tries to escape, but we see that he doesn't make it, and they thank the Paw Patrol for helping them. We go to the volcanic Rumbletop Island, and the cousins are exploring looking for the white tiger. We go to the Paw Patrol, and they are playing with a kite, but suddenly it gets stuck up a tree. Marshall starts swinging and manages to get the kite down, while the Turbits continue in search of the legendary white tiger, but suddenly the place starts to shake, and we see that a small tiger gets inside the backpack, and they do not realize it. The mother tiger approaches them to retrieve her baby, but we see that the Turbits run away scared and end up trapped. Captain Turbot communicates with Ryder and begins to tell him that they need his help because they got trapped. But suddenly, we see that they start falling down a big hole, and the signal is lost. Ryder decides to call the Paw Patrol, and we see that they gather to listen to the mission. Ryder starts telling them that they will be wearing an aviator suit to save their friends because they are trapped inside a cave. So Skye will be named as the team leader, and that they will have an ultimate air rescue mission. Then the Paw Patrol board Skye's new ultimate helicopter, and they are on their way to complete the mission. While Captain Turbot is looking for his cousin, and they manage to realize that there was a tiger in the backpack, they start to say that they should look for the white tiger to return her baby, but suddenly we see that it is shaking again. We go back to the Paw Patrol, and they made it to Rumbletop Island. Then the Paw Patrol start looking for the entrance, and they manage to realize that there is a camera on the ground. So the pups jump out of the helicopter to get closer to the new clue. They realize that it is Captain Turbot's camera, and they go on their way to look for their friends, while the white tiger continues looking for her baby. But suddenly we see that the Turbits are attacked, and they fall into a hole again, where they realize that the mountain is actually a volcano about to explode. Then the mother tiger is about to attack them, but they manage to be saved thanks to the baby tiger, while the Paw Patrol continue their investigation in search of their friends and realize that the Turbits are inside a hole. Rocky uses his rappel gear to get down, but he can't find them. Skye manages to realize that smoke is coming out of the mountain, so Ryder discovers that it is a volcano. Then the Paw Patrol reunite in the helicopter and decide to jump into the volcano to save their friends, while Ryder and Zuma are investigating another one of the caves. We go inside the volcano, and the Paw Patrol manage to get there in time to help them. We start to see that the Paw Patrol use their devices, and they manage to create a path up the lava, but they manage to realize that their plan didn't work. The Paw Patrol decide to use their flying vehicle vehicles to save them and get them out of the cave before it explodes. Then the Paw Patrol begin to celebrate that they completed the mission and that they became friends with the White Tigers. Then they prepare for the shooting of a new film, where we can see that the protagonist of the movie is a giant monster and that Marshall is helping so that no accident happens. But suddenly we see that he interrupts the filming because he thought someone was in danger. So Marshall apologizes for ruining the recording because he just thought they needed his help. Rocky begins to say that the monster looks real and that it can be controlled by a small controller, while Humdinger is angry because he was not invited to be in the movie. Then the staff continues with the filming and Humdinger decides that he will steal the giant robot to have his own movie. We begin to see that he tricks the operator and that he manages to get control to operate the monster, but suddenly we see that he doesn't know how to control it and that everyone realizes that control was stolen from them. Humdinger starts running away to avoid being caught and decides to use the robot to attack people. Then Ryder calls the Paw Patrol and we see that they gather to listen to the mission. Ryder starts telling them that they have to stop the monster from causing more damage, and for that reason they will have an ultimate fire rescue mission. Then the Paw Patrol get into Marshall's vehicle and we see that they are on their way to complete the mission. While Humdinger still doesn't know how to use the robot's controls, we return to the Paw Patrol and we see that Sky starts to fly to get to the robot, but suddenly we see that the robot is destroying the city and Marshall tells his friends that they have to save the people. Then by accident, Chickaletta gets trapped on top of the robot and the Paw Patrol are on their way to save her, but suddenly we see that they end up being attacked by Humdinger and that the monster manages to escape with little Chickaletta. We begin to see that the monster is attacking people and the Paw Patrol arrive in time to save their friend. Then Humdinger uses the control again and ends up causing the antenna to be destroyed. So now the monster can no longer receive signals and is out of control. Sky uses her wings to start flying and follow the giant monster, while her friends use the fire truck to stop the fire. Chase decides to use his heat scanner and we see that they manage to find the monster's antenna. So they realize that the monster had lost it and they have to stop it. We go to the farm and the giant monster uses its fire beam to attack the barn, while Sky informs her friends where the robot is and joins the farmer to solve the problem. The Paw Patrol manage to get there in time to stop the fire, but suddenly we see a big explosion occur and popcorn starts raining down. Then the Paw Patrol are on their way to stop the monster and Humdinger is trapped on top of the monster. So Marshall decides to use the rescue grapple to save Humdinger and then they use the cab to climb on top of the monster. We start to see them climb on top of the monster to save Chickaletta and they use the water sprayer to get the robot wet, with which they manage to get the monster stopped. Then Marshall realizes that they were able to record the rescue and he ends up being named as the main character of the movie. We go to the observatory and the Paw Patrol are preparing for the comet's arrival. Then they are named as the Pups Protectors of the Super Telescope and Rubble helps them to build the observatory because they are preparing to finish the construction so they can install the telescope. Rubble uses his vehicle to do the installation and says he will finish in time to see the comet. Then Humdinger arrives to ask about the comet and is told that it will be named by the first person to see it. So Humdinger decides that he will take the telescope with him so that no one else will see it. Rubble says that they have finished the installations and that everything is ready for them to see the comet. We go to the base and everyone is waiting for the comet to arrive. While on the mountain, Humdinger takes the opportunity to take the observatory so that he can be the first person to see the comet. But suddenly we see that it ends up getting out of control and begins to fall from the top of the mountain. Later they realize that they took the observatory and they contact Ryder to ask for his help. So Ryder wakes up the Paw Patrol and we see that they gather to listen to the mission. Ryder begins to tell them that they took the observatory and that they have to get it back in order to see the comet. So they will have an ultimate construction rescue mission and that Rubble will be in charge of using the construction vehicle. Then the Paw Patrol get into Rubble's vehicle and we see that they are on their way to complete the mission. We go to the forest and the Paw Patrol gather with Otis to build his cabin because it was destroyed because of Humdinger. We begin to see that the pups are working as a team to make the repairs and they manage to build the cabin in a perfect way. So Otis is happy that he has a better cabin while Humdinger is still out of control on top of the observatory, but suddenly we see that they crash into a rock and moving it causes them to continue out of control. We return to the Paw Patrol and Chase uses his flashlight to search for clues in the dark, with which they manage to discover where the observatory went and then they are on their way to retrieve it. The Paw Patrol realize it's out of control and say they have to stop it before it reaches the bridge. Marshall decides to use his cement cannon to stop the vehicle and then they take the opportunity to make a detour in the road, with which they manage to get the observatory off the road and the bridge is not destroyed. We begin to see that the observatory is moving out of control and destroying things in the city because of Humdinger. While the mayor is excited about about the arrival of the comet, but suddenly we see that she is about to be hit and that she manages to be saved in time. Then the Paw Patrol use their construction vehicle to repair the mess and are on their way back to stop the observatory. We go to the farm and they are excited about the birth of some piglets. But suddenly we see the Paw Patrol arrive and they manage to make a ramp to stop the observatory from crashing, with which they manage to make the engine fall off and the observatory stops. Then the Paw Patrol take the observatory back to the mountain and everyone is ready to watch the comet go by. So they decide that the comet will be named the Construction Crew Cosmic Comet. In the next morning, everyone is preparing for the Paw Patrol party because they are going to receive the keys of the city. While in the distance had arrived the pirate Sid along with his dog Arby. They plan to steal the key of the city and they say they just need to get the tools. So they take the opportunity that everyone is distracted to go to the Paw Patrol base and we see that they decide to steal the vehicles of the pups. Then the pirate calls the crabs and we see that they gather to take the vehicles. While in the city we see that the Paw Patrol receive the key and they decide to let the mayor take care of it so that everyone can see it. We go back to the pirates and they manage to make the mayor lose the keys. So they say that the city belongs to them and they must claim their booty. We start to see that the pirates are using the key to steal the whole city and they manage to get a lot of treasures. The mayor contacts the Paw Patrol and starts telling them what happened. Then Ryder calls the Paw Patrol, but when they get to their base, they realize that their vehicles were stolen. Ryder begins to tell them that they are using their vehicles to steal in the city, and for that reason, they will have an ultimate police rescue. Then the Paw Patrol get into Chase's vehicle, and they are on their way to complete the mission. While in the city, the pirate continued stealing, and we see that they decide to steal the kitty Callie because they think she is also a pirate. We go back to the Paw Patrol, and they are investigating in search of the thieves, so they decide that they will use the vehicles to search for clues. Then the Paw Patrol are on their way following the trail of clues, and they manage to hear the signal from the stolen vehicles, with which they manage to find out who were responsible, and we see that they manage to find out where they are. So the Paw Patrol go at high speed to reach them. We begin to see that they are in a chase, and that they separate the vehicles to rescue Callie. But suddenly, we see the crabs return to help their pirate captain, and they manage to get the Paw Patrol to stop, while Sky manages to get there in time to save the farmer, and we see that the pirates manage to escape. We return to the Paw Patrol, and Ryder tells the mayor that they didn't steal the gold mine, while the pirates are listening to them, and they say they will be on their way to get the treasure. Then, the pirates manage to get to the treasure, but we see that it was actually a trap, and they are able to find them. We start to see that they are in a chase, and Sky manages to beat one of the crabs, while Marshall goes at high speed, and we see that he manages to beat another one of the crabs. Then Chase uses his launcher, and that he manages to stop the fire truck. We go to the dock, and we see that the pirates are about to escape, but they manage to realize that they were tricked. So they decide to use Zuma's vehicle to escape, but we see that the crabs start attacking them because they were betrayed. Zuma then uses his new vehicle and manages to arrive in time to save the pirates. We return to the city, and we see that the Paw Patrol were able to recover everything that was stolen, and that they received the heart of the city as a reward. In the next day, Chickaletta is playing with the mayor's cell phone, and they go on their way to get some water, but when they come back, they realize that her cell phone is gone. We begin to see that everyone has lost their cell phones too, and that they can't communicate for help. So, the mayor decides to run to get to the Paw Patrol. She starts telling him that the cell phones were stolen, and we see that the farmer also had the same problem. Then Ryder calls to the Paw Patrol, and we see that they gather to listen to the mission. Ryder begins to tell them that the phones in the city are disappearing, and that they would be in charge of solving the mystery. Then the Paw Patrol get into Chase's vehicle, and they are on their way to complete the mission. We begin to see that the pups are divided in groups, and that they are solving the city's problems. The Paw Patrols realize that they were playing the same game, and that this could be the most important clue. While Rocky uses his scanner and manages to find the tracks of a small animal, so they go on the road to find the culprit, and they manage to discover that it was a raccoon, which likes the music that plays inside the games, and that was the reason for stealing the cell phones. Then the Paw Patrol managed to trick the raccoon to come out of the cave, and they managed to recover the stolen cell phones. So everyone thanks them for solving the mystery, and they give the raccoon his own cell phone with music. In the next morning, the Paw Patrol are resting because it's too hot. Marshall starts to say that they should take care of the water, and they are going to fill the pool with water from his cannons. While in the city, the cousins are moving a kind of crystal, and they plan to use it in the lighthouse lights. But suddenly we see that it's working like some kind of lens, and that actually caused them to be in trouble. We start to see that they're burning various things in the city, and that they hadn't realized the trouble they caused. But suddenly we see that they had burned the road, and that they go on their way to reunite with the pups, while Mrs. Marjorie had been trapped, and they call the Paw Patrol to let them know what happened. So Ryder Ryder decides to call the Paw Patrol, and we see that they gather to hear the mission. Ryder starts telling them that there is trouble in the city, and that they will have an ultimate fire rescue mission. Then the Paw Patrol get into their vehicles, and we see that they are on their way to complete the mission. We start to see that they are working as a team on the fire truck, and they manage to make the train stop. Rocky uses his vehicle to stop the fire, and then they continue on their way to complete the mission. We start to see that they continue to work as a team to help people, and that they manage to solve the city's problems. While the cousins are on their way to reach the base, and we see that by accident they had lost their trailer, which had caused the water tank to heat up, and they realize that it is about to explode. So they go on their way to try to stop it, and they manage to realize that it was caused by the glass. Then Sky fly in to use a tarp to prevent it from continuing to heat up, while the pups use the vehicles to throw streams of water, and we see that they manage to prevent the explosion from happening. So they celebrate that they completed the mission, and that they managed to prevent an accident from happening. We go to the base, and we see that the pups are playing on their new slide. Rocky is scared because he doesn't like to get wet, and his friend helps him so he doesn't touch the water. While in space, we see that Captain Gordy is in trouble, and they call the Paw Patrol to ask for their help because the ship is dodging meteors and is going to have trouble landing on Earth. So Ryder decides to call the Paw Patrol, and we see that they gather to listen to the mission. Ryder starts telling them that the captain is in trouble and that they will have an ultimate construction rescue mission. Then the Paw Patrol get into their vehicles, and we see that they are on their way to complete the mission. We go to the farm, and the pups say that they had brought materials to start the construction. We start to see that they are working as a team to make the landing field, and that they are building it in time for the spaceship to land. But suddenly we see that they are being called, and they start telling them that there are more problems because the ship is still out of control and it's on its way to crash in the desert. So they say that they must move the construction, and we see that they work as a team to take it in their vehicle. Ryder starts to say that they already arrived in the desert, and we see that again it had changed direction. We begin to see that they are on their way to reach the location, and that they managed to arrive in time for him to land. So they celebrate that they completed the mission, and that they arrived in time to save their